Hello folks, I hope everyone is doing really well today, and wherever you are, I hope you're having a really nice day. We're actually having some really nice weather. It's still quite summery, it's quite warm. Some days are a little bit too hot for me for my taste. I like it a little bit cooler, but who's gonna complain? Not me. Wanted to talk to you about the dish that we've prepared for this video. But before we do that, I do want to explain something. You might see a little more editing in the intro than usual because this morning something happened to me. Nothing major or dire, but I was getting this jar as I was checking for some ingredients, dry ingredients for a recipe shoot that we'll be doing tomorrow, I think, dessert based. And this thing, yep, you can see it. This is the lid for that jar, and it decided to fall off the jar because we normally keep our stuff in the pantry back there. The lid just slid off the jar and thunk, like from this edge, hit my head, and I've been feeling a little bit dizzy. Not a major concussion or anything, but obviously there's some side effects from when being hit so hard with something like this. So my speech might be a little bit slower today, and my eyes might seem a little bit heavy-lidded. Reason it slipped off, it's because I guess enough flour built up around the rubber rim here that it just slipped right off, because these actually have a very firm grip on the jars, which is what we really like about it. Makes it quite airtight. But lesson learned for next time, make sure that the rim stays flour free, so it doesn't get slippery when I'm taking things down. Anyways, let's get on to what we really are going to be talking about here. I hope that we don't get crucified too harshly for this. We're actually making a Spanish rice dish called paella. Now, I did a lot of research on this because obviously I want to be respectful to that culture, being that I'm from an Indian background and we make what's called a biryani, which is also our rice dish, but there's so many iterations and variations of it that have popped up over the years that we still call it biryani because of the method that it was cooked in. And I was trying to see if paella is a specific ingredient-based dish on top of the way it's made, or if it's something that you have in your fridge in your pantry and you throw it and you still cook it in that traditional method or process. There are a lot of mixed things on the internet, and even from folks in Spain who are also chefs there. They said paella is whatever you want to put in there that you have in your fridge. Just make sure there's a difference in the seafood paella and in the meat-based paella, or if you're going to be doing a vegetarian paella, but you don't normally mix fish or seafood with meat. You don't normally see sausage in a Spanish rice dish as well, but I decided to put a sausage in there, not a chorizo. I love lamb Merguez sausage, and we have some great butchers in Toronto that make really tasty lamb Merguez. So I wanted to put that sausage in there for more of the flavor aspect rather than it being the main ingredient. The main ingredient in our dish is actually chicken. When I did more of my research, I also came across the phrase Arroz con Cosas. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It means rice with things. So if this is not deemed as a paella, although you will see it in our headline, I'm totally okay with it being Arroz con Cosas, as long as it's acknowledged that it is, our way of making this delicious Spanish rice dish. What I did, of course, do is make sure I stuck to the process the way it's made. I have made this dish several times before, and we love it. Our friends love it. Our family loves it. So we want to share it with you guys with stuff that we have here. I don't normally cook with runner beans. I don't normally cook with artichoke. So I just cooked using the ingredients that we normally have at home. Now, the pans to use, confession, we actually did this video twice, which you won't really see. Rob was able to locate some paella pans, and you will see there is a medium-sized paella pan, and then there's a smaller sized one. The medium one is for 4 people. The smaller sized one is for 2 people, which is great because sometimes Rob and I would like some of the dish, make the dish, but we don't want the larger quantity because there's just the 2 of us, unless we know we'll be having people come over. The pans that Rob found are really thin carbon steel pans. So just to note for folks, if you are going to be getting these paella pans, if you are able to locate them, be cautious of the heat that will be coming through it. it gets hot very quickly. It also cools down a lot quicker, and I think that's the nature of the pan and the nature of the cooking, because there is a resting period at the end and you're just cooking the remaining dish with the residual heat. So you don't want the pan to retain too much heat. You actually want to start cooling down so it doesn't burn as it's cooking the rest of the ingredients. So if you want, you can use the carbon steel pans, which is what we usually have at home, and that's what I've always cooked with, so I know how to cook with it. But for this video, I guess we figured let's try to make it as authentic as we can, and we found these paella pans, and it was a challenge because we're not cooking these at our stove, and our stove is a gas stove. I can control the heat better. We're cooking using the induction plate. That was round one. Absolute fail. It heated up too quickly. The bottom burnt as opposed to creating the crispy bottom, which is what paella is also known for, or Arroz con Cosas. But we then decided to shoot it again using the butane burner that we also have. And it was still, I had it at the lowest setting and it was still too hot, but it wasn't as bad as the induction. Because we still wanted to put this video out there, we decided to still do it using version 2, which I'm a lot happier with. Now, I did read not to use a cast iron based pan because it retains the heat for too long or it gets too hot. I've never cooked in one, so I'm not sure what it is like. But if you have a cast iron pan, you know, cook with what you have available, but be mindful that you may have to be able to control the heat a little bit better, because the essence of the cooking process is that you start really hot. You want the liquid that you're going to place in there to actually be boiling, and you never, and I mean never, you never stir the dish, ever. You can rotate the pan around, which is what you'll see me doing in the video, because the burner is actually smaller than the pan, and I want to distribute the heat to have a more of an even cooking around the pan. But you never, and I mean never, stir this dish. And the reason you don't stir it, because you don't want the starch in the rice to be released and make the dish gloopy. You want the rice, each grain of rice, to be able to separate. And as you scoop it out, and if you're successful, you get that crispy bottom, which is that's my favorite part. When you scoop it out and you're scraping the pan for all the crunchy bits, because everybody's going to fight over it, you will see that the rice is separated. There's no starch built up. It's delicious, and it is such a great dish. It's one of my favorite dishes that I make at home quite often, and we hope that you guys are also going to be able to enjoy it. The link to the recipe is going to be in the description area, so if you do want to cook it, which we really recommend, check out the description area for the link to the recipe. The one thing about this recipe, not everybody may be able to obtain or have access to a short grain rice, which is called Bomba Rice. Bomba Rice is the actual rice used in all paella or Spanish rice dishes. It is a short grain rice. If you aren't able to find one, we're fortunate in Toronto to be able to locate them now. 2 years ago, I'd never seen them before. It's only within the last 2-3 years that I've actually started seeing them. You can use any short grain rice. You just don't want to use the long grain rice. It won't cook the same. If you use Bomba Rice, make sure your liquid to rice ratio is 3:1. If you're using any other short grain rice, make sure your liquid to rice ratio is 2.5:1. The reason is because the Bomba rice, the actual variety of rice, needs more liquid to be able to cook at that heat and pace as opposed to the other short grain rices. So lessons learned for me is, if we're going to try something new to put on YouTube, do a test period beforehand. We normally do test things before we put it on, but in this case we were so excited, we wanted to use the paella pan, and I learned my lesson that not every pan is the same. That should be already quite logical. In this case, you will see the version 2. Enjoy watching the video. We hope that you make the dish. If you do, provide us a comment down below. We would love to know what you guys think. While you guys go and watch the video, I'm actually gonna go not take a nap, but just go rest for a bit. As always, please don't forget to like. Please don't forget to subscribe. Please don't forget to hit all those buttons that you need to down below, which is also including the notification bell. Thank you again. Enjoy the video.
Put it over.
Right here.
Lower.